You're listening to Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions on product and business strategy. And now, here's your host, Bob Caparelli.
Welcome back to another episode of Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions about product and business strategy. Real questions from real people in real companies just like yours. Well, welcome back, strategy creators, and welcome especially our new listeners from the podcasting community. Again, now this is the third part of our 5-part series that we're doing all throughout April for understanding the target audience for your podcast. And this comes from a speech that I did at the PodFest Multimedia Expo back in the beginning of March. I promised that audience that I would dedicate the next 5 episodes in April to this subject and that talk. And so here we are. Again, if you're not a podcaster, don't tune out, because all of these same concepts apply to any product, any business that you have, which is why I thought it would be appropriate to feature these things on the show. So the first episode, which we did in episode 81 2 weeks ago, was about just an overview of this subject of finding your ideal target audience and really understanding that audience. Last week, we got a little more granular and talked about how you can take this huge market that's, largely unobtainable and break it down into smaller pieces. So you're filtering out the parts of the market that you don't want to go after or can't obtain. And so we introduced this tool that is commonly used in larger companies called TAM, SAM, and SOM, which is a way of forecasting your market and filtering it down. What we said there was that to get from your TAM to your SAM, which is your total addressable market, to your serviceable addressable market, you need to do some level of customer segmentation and then eliminate the segments you don't want to go after or can't go after. Then to get from your SAM to your SOM, you want to try and convert whatever SAM you want to go after into actual listeners or consumers of your product, which represents your SOM. And you're going to do that by understanding those customers and using tools to do that. So this week, we're going to cover the first part of that, getting from your TAM to your SAM, which you're going to do through customer segmentation. So that's basically what we're going to talk about here today. If you're lost, go back and listen to episodes 81 and 82, or go to dearstrategy.net, check out the blogs that we have for those episodes, and they'll catch you right up. But this week, we're going to talk about customer segmentation. Really, really important subject, again, for anybody who has a product business or a podcast. And so that's where we want to focus. Segmentation is really just about grouping the market into reasonable groupings that represent customers with similar needs, okay? And that's a really, really important qualifier, is that they have to have similar needs. Typically, what you want to do is try and find people that have similar needs with respect to the products or services that you're providing. At its baseline, need, the reason that we're doing this is because imagine you're a company and you want to market your products. And if you try to market your products to every single person in the world, you're spending a lot of time, a lot of money. And most of those people, the vast majority, are not going to be even remotely interested in anything that you have to say or sell, right? So that's just going to represent wasted dollars. And if you take that down to, if you're a podcaster and you do, social media marketing or whatever else, you do Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, you'll see it. They have all kinds of different demographics and breakdowns of people that you can use to target your ads. Well, if you tried to target everybody, you might have a lot of people clicking on your ads, which is going to cost you money, but most of those people aren't going to be interested. So you really want to get down to the people who are actually going to click and be interested in the products or services that you have to offer. So that's some form of segmentation. Now, when you're doing segmentation, there's a number of different ways that you can do it. Again, it's always based on customer needs, but there's different methodologies that you can use. And if you look in the marketing textbooks, the 4 most common ones are as follows: geographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioral. Okay, so those are the 4 basic segmentation types. Now, if you're in the business to business world, there are going to be some variations on this theme. For example, there's something called firmographics, and firmographics is basically demographics for companies, right? So if you're selling to businesses, you look at the demographics for different companies, size of company, type of industry that they're in, things of that nature. There's also vertical industry segmentation. So, you could look at the industry that the businesses that you're selling to are primarily within or serving. So oil and gas, petrochemical, automotive, things of that nature. So there's a couple of variations, but for the most part, they're all based on these 4 same basic segmentations. To define them, by the way, geographic segmentation is really all about just where people reside, right? And again, it's not just going to be based on where they reside for random reasons. It's going to be where they reside based on the product that you're providing. So if I am providing air conditioning, for example, maybe that's my product, right? I'm going to separate geographies based on the temperature of the regions that people live in, right? Because that's going to affect my product. Whereas if I'm selling, religious materials, right, my geographic segmentation is going to be a lot different because I might be looking at the geographies of where different people who worship different religions are based. So, and that's going to be a whole different look at the geographies. So it all goes down to, what the needs are based on your particular product. But again, geographic is going to be based generally on where people reside. The second type is demographic, and that's going to be based on some defining characteristics of customers that you define. Most common ones are, let's say, gender, age. We mentioned religion. Religion is one of them as well sometimes. Income level, education level. So these are all different characteristics that might make up demographic segmentation. Again, not just random, right? You want to do it based on the needs around your product. So if I'm selling, something around the Medicare market, right? My demographic with respect to age is going to be people below age 65 and people above age 65, right? Whereas if I'm selling, some other, hipster type product, then I want to be looking at age groupings that are quite different. Maybe I want to look at age 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, whatever else, because that's going to be a different cut for my product. So again, there's not a defined range that you'll use for the demographics, but the concept of using these defined characteristics is a form of demographic segmentation. The third part is psychographic segmentation, and this is based on how customers feel about things, essentially, right? And so, it might be their preferences. So let's say I'm, selling coffee, right? There are some people that are coffee snobs. There are some people that only like espresso. There are some people that just like regular, homebrewed coffee. Those are all kind of preferences that might fall into the psychographic realm. And then the last one, which is admittedly a little bit overlapping with psychographic sometimes, is behavioral, right? They get confused a little bit. That's okay. But behavioral is basically how people act. So you can see how based on how people feel might influence their behavior. So that it's easy to get those mixed up, but behavioral is really based on the actions people take. So again, back to the coffee, if you're a coffee snob, that falls more into a psychographic or a preference. But, if you're only drinking coffee during the morning, or if you're only drinking coffee during your commute, that's more of a behavioral type of a segmentation, right? It's based on your actions or the actions you take. So these are different segmentation models. Now, I will tell you that a lot of marketers, even very experienced marketers, fall into the trap of thinking that you have to choose one of these, and that's basically it. That's not generally the way things work. More commonly, companies will use some combination of all of these to get down to the 6 or 7 or 8 segments, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, those segments that they actually want to target for their businesses. And every business will have different segments that they define at the end of the day. I'll tell you how I kind of combine all these things for my podcast, and I think that could be helpful. Again, even if you have a consumer product or a business-to-business product, give you an idea of how these things work. So, for my podcast, obviously it can reach everyone in the world, right? I'm on iTunes and Google and all these different things. So that's, it's out there. But I'm not really targeting everyone in the world, right? Because I know that I'm speaking English. The examples I'm using are really mostly North American centric. So if I'm being honest, the target for my podcast, as far as segmentation goes, using geography as the first pass, is going to be the US and Canada for the most part. So it's North America. But that's still really, really big, right? Everyone who listens to podcasts in North America and Canada, in US and Canada, that's like way too much to get my hands on. And if I try to talk to all those people, most of them are not going to be interested. So I have to continue to filter down further. And so then I look at psychographic, right? And psychographic, again, based on preferences, a good way to do that is go to your, Apple or iTunes categories or genres and use those as a way to cut down your your audience a little bit more. And they're already pre-segmented, right? Arts, business, comedy, education, games and hobbies, government and organizations, things like that. Those are the different genres that are out there. A lot of people think of genre as a style or a category. I think of it as a preference, right? And you think of it from a consumer's eyes. If you're a consumer and you are, going out to Apple and you're trying to find podcasts, if you're interested in business, you're going to go to the business category, right? So that represents a psychographic segmentation. So I use that. So again, for Dear Strategy, I know that I'm really mostly in the business and education segments, right? So that's my psychographic. But then I could actually go even one step further than that and use some combination of demographic and behavioral and say, okay, in the business world, is it everyone who's interested in business that's going to be interested in the subject of strategy? The answer is no, right? So really, if I break that down further, I'm really looking at product management, business leaders, even strategy consultants. So that's kind of the area. And in the education space, it's really mostly people who are kind of in MBA, business school, that kind of a realm. So what that gives me by using all of those different segmentation models is some level of, segmentation that gets me down to my 4 main segments, which are product managers, business leaders, strategy consultants, and business students, right? That's the 4 people or the 4 segments of people that I've used. So you could see that those don't represent any one segmentation model. They represent a combination of all of them. And again, it's those people in North America. So you could see I've filtered it down. But that's how you would typically use these segmentation models. And every company, every product is going to be slightly different. But the idea is to take your TAM, okay, your total addressable market, try and break it down into your serviceable addressable market, which is really the people that you can service or want to service with the product that you have, okay? So again, I know it's a lot to absorb, but all that's going to be on the blog. So go out to dearstrategy.net/blog and you'll be able to find, a write-up of these same things. This is, pretty deep stuff. This is the stuff that we teach in our workshops, but I really wanted to cover it here because I think it's really interesting and important learning. So hopefully you find that helpful. Join us back here next week. We're going to go into part 4 of this 5-part series where we're going to actually start talking about the tools that you would use to understand those segments now that you have those segments laid out. It's going to be really important stuff. So hope to see you back here. In the meantime, go visit the sponsor of the podcast, the company that I own and founded, and the one that teaches all this stuff on a regular basis, Strategy Generation Company. So you can go to visit us at strategygeneration.com. Hope to see you there. And in the meantime, don't forget to make time for the plan. We'll see you back here on another episode of Dear Strategy. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for listening to Dear Strategy with Bob Caparelli. To learn more or to submit a question to be featured on our show, please visit us at dearstrategy.net.